Billionaire's twins shocked Nanny after just 2 weeks. What they said revealed a hidden love. Sarah adjusted her apron, standing in the massive kitchen of the Billionaire's mansion, the aroma of fresh cookies floating around her. Just 2 weeks as the nanny for Thomas' twins, Emily and Jack, had already turned her world upside down. She was reminded that beneath the glossy surface of wealth, children could still feel lonely. The manicured lawns and luxury cars of this prestigious neighborhood only seemed to amplify the absence of genuine affection in Emily and Jack's lives. As she sat cross-legged on the plush rug in the sunlit playroom, the twins attacked their math homework with a mix of determination and defeat. Jack, a slight boy with tousled dark hair, sighed, "It's like Dad doesn't even know we exist." His words, heavy and painful, squeezed Sarah's heart. She remembered nights in the barracks, the longing for connection echoing just as hard. "Hey," she said softly, feeling the urge to comfort. "He's busy, but that doesn't mean you're not important. You both are incredible. It must be tough, huh?" Both twins nodded, and for a moment, their shared silence spoke volumes. 2 weeks in, Sarah was no longer just another caretaker, she felt a spark of connection building. Their laughter while baking cupcakes, practicing bike riding under the broad Oklahoma sky, these small moments were turning into anchors for them all. And yet, Emily, the more sensitive of the pair, held a deeper sorrow in her big brown eyes. They were like mirrors reflecting her own shadows. One evening, they sprawled out on the lawn, stars twinkling overhead. The sky was vast, endless, just like their dreams. Emily's voice trembled. "Sometimes, I feel like I don't have a real family. Just a dad who buys us whatever we want," but her voice cracked, revealing the fragility of their world. "Us too," Jack whispered. The child's innocence shattered Sarah's defenses as she allowed herself to connect deeply. "I think it's okay to want hugs, right? Of course. Love isn't always in the stuff we have. It's in who's there." Sarah felt her own heart swell. She promised herself to fill in the gaps with warmth and tenderness. They needed a steady hand. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue, but with every step forward came lingering glances from Thomas, his expression a mix of skepticism and concern. The whispers from the elite circles only intensified. Who was she, a military veteran, to enter their world of sophistication? Yet with every hug, every shared moment, Sarah was slowly knitting together their hearts, defying those judgments. She sensed the walls around Emily and Jack crumbling, giving way to bursts of laughter and real, unguarded smiles. Just when Sarah thought they could find a real family in each other, a phone call shattered their fragile happiness. "Dad?" Jack's voice trembled, each word hanging heavy in the air as secrets from Thomas' past threatened to unravel everything. The tension was palpable, roots of hope and fear intertwining. Would love be enough to shield them from the truth? With Sarah caught in the chaos of emotions, she realized the battle was just beginning. And as shadows loomed overhead, the question hung between them: could a love forged in authenticity withstand the weight of hidden truths? All hearts were at stake as they stood at the precipice, waiting for a transformation that could save them or tear them apart forever. The phone call ended with a click, leaving an echo in the air that felt as substantial as the weight of the unspoken secrets. Jack's small hands trembled, his face losing color. Emily, reading the shift in Jack's demeanor, instinctively scooted closer to him, the unbreakable bond of twins flaring to life in an instant. "Jack, what's wrong?" Sarah pressed, kneeling in front of them, her heart racing as she scanned their faces. She felt a responsibility like none she'd ever known. She was not just a caregiver anymore, she was their confidant. More than anything, she wanted to protect them from whatever darkness had just seeped into their evening. Dad, he said someone might come for us, Jack stuttered, breaking into a mixture of fear and sorrow that knotted in his young chest. He sounded scared. Tears pooled in his eyes, glistening like tiny stars reflecting in the darkness of the room. Come for us? Sarah echoed, her stomach twisting. What does that mean? Emily hugged Jack tighter, looking to Sarah like a lighthouse lost in a storm. Is he going to send us away? Like, where would we go? The thought made Sarah's pulse spike. She had started to envision a future where love and laughter would fill the mansion any time the twins needed her. She had imagined late-night talks under the stars where worries were left behind. Now, those dreams were shattering like glass. I don't know, Sarah admitted, fighting back the surge of panic rising in her chest. But we'll face it together, okay? As tears began to roll down Jack's cheeks, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that their way of life was unraveling. What kind of person could threaten the innocent love these children were so desperately chasing? Together, Emily echoed, her voice barely above a whisper yet carrying the strength of a vow. It was enough to foster a flicker of hope within Sarah. The next day brought an ominous silence. Thomas was distant, his sharp, unyielding demeanor haunting the air like an unexpected chill. The warmth they had built together felt overshadowed. It was as if the mansion had turned into a labyrinth of hidden corridors, and they were lost inside. Sarah, Thomas called her as she set breakfast. His voice held a weight she couldn't read, but the unease pricked at her. Can we speak? Sure, Mr. Darnell. She steadied herself, preparing for what felt like the impending storm. Jack mentioned the call you overheard. His eyes were dark pools, swirling with turmoil. You need to understand that my life, it's not just about me. There are parts that are fragile. If someone finds out about you and the twins, I understand nothing. Sarah crossed her arms, defiance guarding her heart. I haven't been privy to your past, but I will not let your choices define their future. They have a right to feel safe and loved. His expression shifted. It was a mixture of surprise and admiration that left her breathless. It's more complicated than that, Sarah. Complicated. The word hung between them. Something told her there was more than just the threat of a secret. She felt a sudden urge to break through the walls he had built, cracking the surface to truly see who Thomas was beneath those layers of protection. Then let me help you, she said softly. Before he could respond, the twins burst into the kitchen, their laughter echoing like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. As they rushed towards the table, joy crackled around them like electricity, but for Sarah, a gnawing unease lingered. She couldn't shake the feeling that danger lurked just beyond their carefully curated world. And deep down, she knew that uncovering Thomas' past was the key to battling whatever storm was brewing. As she joined the twins in their laughter, one question echoed loudly in her mind: would they survive whatever truth loomed on the horizon? The answer felt just out of reach. The morning light stretched across the kitchen, illuminating the laughter of Jack and Emily as they recounted a wild story from their favorite cartoon. Sarah watched them, the warmth of their giggles contrasting sharply with the cold weight of her worries. For a moment, she let their joy wash over her, forgetting the storm brewing just outside their bubble. Then, the smile faltered. Thomas stood near the door, his shoulders tense, pulling her back to the reality she couldn't ignore. Can we talk now? He asked, his voice low, almost a whisper. The twins seemed lost in their own world, unaware of the shadows creeping in. Sarah nodded, heart thumping in her chest. As she followed him down the dim hall, a chill brushed along her spine. It felt like walking into the mouth of a wolf. They stepped into the library, a space that usually felt welcoming with its plush chairs and walls lined with books that held stories of hope. But today, the room felt oppressive. Thomas glanced around before locking the door behind them. I need you to trust me, he said, gripping the edge of the desk as if it could anchor his fraying resolve. Trust you? Sarah raised her eyebrows, annoyance edging into her voice. That's a strange request when you're keeping secrets, Mr. Darnell. He ran a hand over his hair, frustration flickering across his features. I'm trying to protect you and the kids. But the harder I try, the more danger appears. Danger? What kind of danger? Her voice rose, fueled by a mix of fear and determination. She wanted answers, not just vague warnings wrapped in shadows. People from my past, they don't just go away. And if they discover you, his voice trailed off, leaving an uneasy silence in its wake. Then we'll fight them together, Sarah stated firmly, despite the growing pit in her stomach. Strength surged through her, urging her to take a stand. You're not in this alone. He looked surprised, a flicker of admiration crossing his face again. I don't want you to get hurt. This isn't just about you or me. This is about their safety. He pointed toward the door where the sound of the twins drifted in, carefree and oblivious. And whose fault is that? Sarah shot back. You put them in this situation by keeping everything locked away. Secrets don't protect them, they put them at risk. Open up, Thomas. Let me in. We can create a real future for them. Silence settled heavily between them. Thomas stared at her, a battle waging in his eyes. Finally, he sighed deeply. There are things you will be safer not knowing. Try me, she challenged, crossing her arms defiantly. Just as he opened his mouth to reply, the laughter from the twins was interrupted by a loud thud from the back of the house. Sarah's heart dropped. She spun toward the library door, panic rushing through her veins. Was that she began, but Thomas was already ahead of her, pushing the door open. Stay back, he ordered, moving past her. Once again, he transformed into the protective figure she had admired since her first day. Sarah watched him go, anxiety gripping her tightly. Every instinct screamed something was terribly wrong. The kids' laughter faded into nervous silence. Emily. Jack. Sarah hollered, racing toward the source of the noise. Sarah. Thomas called from behind, but she couldn't listen. She had to reach them. Something was off. As she turned the corner, her heart dropped. The sight sent a chill through her whole body. A figure loomed in the doorway, dark and shadowy, with eyes that glinted with a haunting familiarity. Hello, Sarah, the figure said, a smirk breaking across their face. Time seemed to freeze. Sarah's breath quickened, the air tightening in her chest. Who was this? What did they want? And more importantly, were Jack and Emily safe? In that moment, every question in her mind collided into a singular thought: the truth is about to reveal itself in the most dangerous way possible. The figure took a step forward, the light from the hallway casting eerie shadows across its face. Sarah's heart raced as she strained to see who it was. A familiar outline, a voice that painted memories long locked away. It couldn't be Sam. She breathed, disbelief tinged with anxiety. The last time she had seen him, they were mere kids, inseparable friends lost to life's tangled paths. But now, that connection felt heavy, tainted by the uncertainty swirling around them. Yes, it's me, he said smoothly, his grin widening. Funny how life brings people back together, right? Especially under such interesting circumstances. Get away from them. Sarah shouted, stepping forward instinctively, her protective instincts surging. She felt the weight of Thomas's absence like a physical blow. He should be here, by her side, warning off dangers, not leaving her to confront this ghost from her past alone. Relax, I'm not here to hurt anyone, Sam replied, his voice dripping with false reassurance. I just wanted to see how you've been, especially with the twins. He gestured behind him, the tension crackling in the air. Sarah's stomach churned. What do you want with my kids? You have no right to involve them. And why shouldn't I? They're part of this mess now too, he said, leaning casually against the doorframe. Their father is as much my concern as they are your treasure. That threw Sarah off balance. What are you talking about? You don't know anything about Thomas, about us. Oh, I know more than you think, Sarah. Thomas has made enemies, and I'm back because I can help you. Help? Her voice came out incredulous. You? After all this time? She couldn't shake the feeling that he was playing a dangerous game, one where the stakes were far too high. Yes, me, he answered, taking a step closer. And you need to be smart about this. You don't know who's really looking for him. She felt her pulse quicken. Whatever dark past Thomas was hiding from her, it was beginning to spill out into her present. What do you mean? Those secrets you mentioned? They're alive and breathing. You need to prepare suddenly. Thomas appeared behind her, his eyes narrowed, and she felt a rush of relief. Get away from my family, he demanded, his voice low and steady, but laced with instinctual rage. I'm just trying to help, Thomas, Sam said, holding up his hands, the smirk disappearing. Sarah needs to know the truth. Can someone please explain what is going on? Sarah implored, looking back and forth between them, frustration boiling. It's not safe right now, Thomas replied sharply, moving to place himself firmly between her and Sam. We need to get the kids and escape. Sam chuckled darkly. You really think you can protect them from what is coming? It's already here. A sudden noise erupted from inside the house, a crashing sound, followed by cries from the twins. Fear shot through Sarah, spiraling like a wildfire, amplifying her determination to keep her children safe. Enough of this. I'm getting Jack and Emily. She shouted, breaking through her worry. But as she turned to run, she felt a strong grip on her arm. Just listen to me for a second. Thomas urged, his voice tense with urgency as he was forced to lower his tone. She shook her head, fiercely staring into his troubled eyes, realizing that the storm outside was nothing compared to the tempest brewing within these walls. I can't risk them, Thomas. Not anymore. As she moved to take one step toward the chaos of her children, she felt an overwhelming weight of uncertainty looming closer. The truth twisting like a knife in her gut, she needed to act fast. Would she uncover the reality hiding in plain sight, or would darkness swallow them all before the light revealed any hope? Sarah, wait! Thomas shouted, but it was too late. She burst through the hallway and into the unknown. The moment she stepped into the living room, chaos erupted. Jack and Emily were at the far end, their little faces twisted in fear, eyes wide with confusion. A tall figure loomed over them, casting a shadow that made Sarah's stomach drop. She recognized the silhouette Ben, the contractor Thomas had trusted for the renovation. Get away from my kids! She screamed, her voice breaking through the chaos like a whip. The air was thick with tension, and time seemed to stretch infinitely as she rushed toward them. Ben turned, startled by her entrance. I'm just making sure they're all right. They were playing near the windows, and seriously? What are you doing here? She rushed past him, enveloping her children into a fierce hug, shielding them from the wild uncertainty now invading their home. Emily clutched her shirt, her small voice trembling. Mommy, we heard loud noises. They scared us. Jack added, eyes darting around as if expecting more shadows to leap from the corners of the room. We're okay, sweethearts, Sarah soothed, feeling the adrenaline racing through her veins. She looked sharply at Ben, seeing the confusion mixed with concern on his face. What happened? I heard a loud crash from the back door. It startled me. I came here to check on the twins because, well, you're not safe, he replied hesitantly, glancing back towards the doorway. Beneath the surface of her worry, something in Ben's tone unsettled her. What do you mean by that? Is someone after us? All I know is that Thomas has gotten himself into something deep, he said, his voice low. There are people asking around. They know about the twins, they're looking for something. Her heart sank. Her mind raced in tandem. Who was Thomas entangled with? What secret had he hidden from her? Just for a moment, she felt the comfortable life they built teetering on the brink of collapse. She couldn't let that happen, not now. Sarah, Thomas interrupted, coming up behind her, his expression filled with urgency. We need to go, right now. If Sam is here, that means they're close. The knot in her stomach twisted tighter. You think they're targeting us? I know they are, he said, stepping closer, his tone barely a whisper, but it echoed with urgency and weight. Suddenly, a car engine revved outside, a hostile sound that made her freeze. It was too loud, a threatening growl that made her heart race again. What was that? She whispered, sensing the air grow heavy with unspoken fears. Ben, take the kids to the back room, Thomas ordered, eyes darting toward the door. Lock it and don't come out until I say so. No. I want to leave you. Sarah interjected sharply, gripping Thomas's arm. What if trust me? It's not safe, he insisted, framing her face with urgency. You need to protect them. I'll figure this out. With a nod that wobbled between fear and fierce determination, she glanced back at her children, who had stepped closer to Ben, seeking solace. I'm scared, Mommy, Jack whimpered, the weight of her love and protectiveness surged within her. I know, baby. We'll get through this, she promised, trying to sound confident, even though her heart felt like it was beating out of her chest. As Thomas and Sarah exchanged one last look, she moved hastily, guiding her children toward the back room, enveloped in a cocoon of protection. The sound of the engine grew more sinister as they settled behind the closed door. Outside, the confrontation loomed, and Sarah felt the curtain of danger beginning to rise. What darkness lurked beyond their fragile sanctuary? Would Thomas be able to shield them from the storm raging on the other side? Moments later, silence took over, and her breath became a shuddering whisper. Hold on tight, kids, because whatever comes through that door, we face together. But was together enough to combat what lay ahead? The unknown hung like a thick fog, and she could not shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. The silence was heavy in the small back room, and Sarah felt every heartbeat echo in the stillness. Jack and Emily clung to her sides, their wide eyes reflecting an innocence caught in an unforgiving situation. She stroked their hair, trying to mask her own rising fear with whatever strength she could muster for them. What is happening, Mommy? Emily asked, her lips trembling as she looked up at Sarah, searching for reassurance. Forcing a smile, Sarah replied, just a little trouble, sweetheart. But we're safe in here. She wished she believed her own words. The quiet after the roar of the engine was unnerving. A low murmur outside, the unmistakable tones of men discussing something critical, slithered through the thin walls. She strained to hear, but most of it was lost in an unsettling fog. Jack leaned in closer, his finger tracing the edges of her shirt. Is Daddy going to come back? Sarah swallowed hard. He will. He just needs to handle something. The lie tasted bitter, but she couldn't let them feel her uncertainty. They needed hope, even if she felt like hope was slipping away with every passing second. The door rattled. A knock, quick but urgent, made her heart jump. Sarah. Are you in there? It was Thomas's voice. Relief washed over her, but she kept her voice low. Yes. We're in here. Listen, we need to move fast. They're close, he warned, panic edging his tone. I need you to open the door. Mommy? Can we go? Jack's voice was barely above a whisper, but she could hear the tremor of worry threaded through it. Not yet, honey, she assured him, trying to suppress the urge to bolt for the door. A sudden thought struck her. Ben, where is Ben? His absence registered like an ominous warning. Out there, alone. Ben went to check on things, Thomas called, as if sensing her thoughts. He'll be okay. We're the priority right now. When can we leave? Emily asked, eyes shining bright with fear. Soon, I promise. Sarah said, squeezing her children close. But as the seconds ticked by, dread began crawling up her spine. What was happening outside? Thomas's voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. You have to trust me, Sarah. I need you both to be ready. Ready for what? She called, more out of frustration than anything else. The walls felt like they were closing in, and she couldn't shake the feeling of imminent danger. A sharp bang on the front door sent a jolt through the house, and the children gasped in unison. Sarah's heart raced. Stay close, she whispered fiercely. Suddenly, the door opened to reveal Thomas, but his expression twisted from urgency to alarm. Get ready. She barely had time to process before he ushered them all out. The living room was submerged in shadows, a chilling reminder of the chaos that had unfolded. They stepped over a fallen chair and sidestepped shattered glass, collecting fear with each breath. Stay behind me, Thomas instructed, positioning himself between Sarah and the twins and pushing them toward the back exit. A flash of movement caught Sarah's eye. A figure stood outside the silhouette of a man, leaning against a car that glinted under the moonlight. He was watching them. Watching closely. Thomas! She shouted, panic rising like bile. We can't go out there. Trust me. Just stay low. His grip on her arm tightened as he guided them toward the door. Outside, the cool night air rushed against her skin, mingling with the warmth of her thoughts. It was disorienting. Sarah wanted to scream, to question, to demand answers. Who was this man? Go. Now. Thomas ordered, pushing her forward. She could feel the pressure of urgency wrapping around them, heavy and unyielding. In those moments, while fear clawed at her insides, it occurred to her that the possibility of safety lay not just in escape, but in choices. Choices that would decide the fate of her family. As they descended the steps, her heart raced with an overwhelming mixture of dread and a flicker of resolve. What lay ahead? What shadows waited just beyond the light? Forcing herself to look back, she caught a glimpse of Ben standing rigid against the doorway. Dark eyes scanning the night. She had to know what he had to say. Ben! She called, desperation spilling over as the distance between them stretched out like a chasm. Would they be safe? Would they make it out at all? The answer lingered in the air, thick and foreboding. She had hoped for his reassurance, but time was slipping through her fingers. What if this was the moment where everything changed? What if this was only the beginning? The cold air rushed past Sarah's face as they ducked behind the car, every sound amplified, every shadow morphing into a potential threat. She could feel Jack's small body trembling against her hip, while Emily clutched her hand like a lifeline. Stay quiet, Thomas whispered urgently. We need to get to the back alley. It's our best chance. Panic swirled in her gut. The alley? The uncertainty sent shivers down her spine. What if there were more men waiting there? What if they were just running into a bigger trap? Ben, he's coming, right? She pressed, trying to keep her voice steady. He will, Thomas replied, determination etched on his face, but the flicker of doubt didn't escape her. They crept around the side of the car, careful to stick to the shadows cast by the moonlight. Sarah's heart raced, each pulse a reminder that they were still in this together. The whispered shouts outside merged into an indistinguishable roar, like an ominous chorus that threatened to swallow them whole. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the air, followed by a deep voice growling obscenities. Every hair on Sarah's neck stood on end. What was that? Jack squeaked, his voice trembling, tears shimmering in his eyes. Stay close, please, she whispered, brushing his hair back as she tried to soothe him with her words. Fear gripped her heart as she glanced behind them, spotting the dark figure still lurking near the house. We have to move. Now. Thomas urged, pushing them forward. They ran. The alley was tighter than she expected, the walls closing in, and as they rushed onward, Sarah felt the weight of her children's small hands in hers, so fragile yet so full of life. In her mind, she replayed every moment, every decision that had led them to this point. Would they make it out? Would they find safety? Did Ben even know what they were facing? "Mommy." Emily whimpered, her small voice cracking with fear. "I need you. I'm right here." It was all she could say, though she felt like she was slipping. As they turned a corner, Thomas slowed down, peering around the edge of the building. "It looks clear for now," he murmured, relief shimmering on his face for just a heartbeat before he hardened again. "But we need to be quick." They moved forward again, and Sarah's heart thundered in her chest. She glanced back at the way they had come. Each step felt heavier as dread pooled in her stomach. What if they ran into the men? What if they couldn't escape? Just as they reached the end of the alley, Thomas turned swiftly, pulling them down behind some old crates. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat as she pressed herself against the rough wood, shielding her children. "What if we hide here?" she suggested, the tremor in her voice betraying her steely facade. "No, we can't. We have to keep going before they discover we're gone," Thomas said, peering around again. The tension in the air was palpable, a stillness before the storm. What if Ben didn't make it? What if their choice to leave put them in more danger? Footsteps echoed nearby, and Sarah's heart dropped. The world narrowed down to the sound, each rhythm hitting like a drum. She turned her head slowly, eyes wide, hoping to spot Ben. Then, she saw him, the familiar silhouette moving cautiously, searching. "Ben!" she whispered, but it came out more like a gasp. He turned at her voice, surprise flashing across his face. Relief flooded her, but it was fleeting. He had come alone, and she realized just how vulnerable they still were. "Sarah! Get the kids out of here. Now!" he shouted, urgency spilling from him. Her heart raced. "What? Why? What's happening?" "Just trust me," he said, his expression darkening as the footsteps grew louder. The moment spun in a dizzying whirl, every second mattering more than the last. Would they listen to his command? Would they walk away from the very path she was so desperate to protect her family from? "Go!" he insisted, pushing them toward the other end of the alley. Behind them, the shadows shifted, and dread gripped her heart tighter, suffocating like a vice. How many men were looking for them? The intensity of the moment pressed down hard, making it hard to breathe. And just as their feet moved, she felt the coldness creeping over her, the sense of change that loomed ahead. What if escaping meant risking everything they held dear? What if safety came at a price she couldn't afford to pay? "Wait!" she cried, mind racing with possibilities. Could they turn back? Would that even matter? As they darted forward, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed behind them, sealing their fate as danger loomed closer. What awaited them just beyond the shadows? Would they discover true safety or something far worse? Sarah glanced at Ben, reading his urgency in the way he stood, poised like a taut string ready to snap. The worry etched on his face cut through the fear that enveloped her. She moved forward, gripping Emily's and Jack's hands tighter, unwilling to let go of the only thing that felt solid in this chaotic world. The throbbing footsteps echoed closer, and every nerve in her body screamed for action. "Just a little further," Ben urged, pushing them towards the end of the alley where the light of a street lamp glimmered faintly. She could see its safety just a few steps away, but the dread gnawed at her. What if it was a mirage? What if they dashed straight into a trap? "Mommy!" Jack whimpered, glancing back into the shadows, his innocence a stark contrast to the danger lurking behind them. "I know, baby. Just hold on tight," she whispered, forcing her voice into a calm that her heart couldn't manage. They pressed on, moving through the narrow passage with the frantic pace driven by fear. Suddenly, Ben turned sharply. "Into that door." He pointed toward a rusty exit that was barely illuminated by the lamplight. It felt like a gamble, but they had little choice. Behind them, the footsteps grew louder, and she could see shadows shifting, looming over them. They rushed to the door, pushing it open all at once. The creak of the hinges sounded like a scream in the silence. Ben ushered them inside first, holding the door just enough to slip in behind them before shutting it tight. Inside, the air was stale and heavy. The dim light from a nearby window barely cut through the darkness. Sarah pressed her back against the door, her heart racing. Every muscle in her body tensed, awaiting a sign, a sound, something telling her they were safe. Ben crouched down beside her, putting a hand on her shoulder. "We need to stay quiet," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. But Sarah felt the gravity of the moment lift for just a heartbeat. There was no denying the relief of having him there, his presence grounding her in a way that was almost calming amidst the chaos. For a moment, it was just them, united against the world. "How did you find us?" she asked, her eyes searching his face, desperate for answers. "I never left. I couldn't. I kept watching for you," Ben replied, a quiet strength in his voice. "I knew they were after you, but I just didn't expect more." Footsteps approached, echoing in the silence, and reality crashed back in. Sarah clutched Emily and Jack tighter, a silent prayer forming on her lips. She had to protect them. No. There was no time for fear. "Is there an exit?" she asked, glancing around the cramped space. "There's a back door," Ben said. "But it leads into the alley again." Her stomach twisted. The alley where danger awaited. But it felt like their only choice. "We have to take it," she said firmly, her voice gathering strength. "Okay. I'll go first," he said, and she watched as he positioned himself to push the door open once more. As he turned the handle, the creak penetrated the thick air. She held her breath, counting the seconds, terrified that every moment of hesitation might betray them. And then they heard it. A distant voice, menacing and sharp, cutting through the dark. "They must be near. Move," she urged, nudging her children forward. They slipped through the door behind Ben, who led the way with purpose, not looking back. The chill of the night air hit their skin, snapping her back to reality. Racing down the alley, adrenaline surged within her, and the world outside felt impossibly loud. Everything went blurry as they emerged, blinking at the sudden brightness. "Sarah, get to the car," Ben shouted, directing them towards the parking lot at the end. Hope ignited inside her. Would they make it? As they sprinted, a chilling voice echoed from behind. "There they are." Sarah's heart dropped. It was impossible to tell how many were coming after them. Panic surged through her veins. "Go! Go!" she yelled, her instincts taking over as she pushed her children ahead, determined to keep them moving. Then she heard the sound of footsteps closing in, a rush of heavy boots against the pavement. Her breath came in desperate gasps. She pushed harder, fear driving her forward. Would they escape? Could Ben outmaneuver the danger that lingered just at their backs? With danger looming closer, Sarah realized the truth: they couldn't just run. They needed a plan, and fast. But could she think clearly enough to save them all? Just as they reached the car, a shout rang out behind them. "Stop!" The command shot through her like a bullet. What awaited them in the shadows? Would courage be enough to overcome the forces that hunted them? The car stood like a beacon, its gleaming surface reflecting the urgent light of the street lamp. But as they drew closer, Sarah's heart raced with every step. The engine was cold. She fumbled with the key, her fingers shaking. Come on, Jack's tiny voice broke through. "Mommy, are we gonna be okay?" The weight of his question hung heavy in the air. "Yes, honey. We just need to get in the car," she managed to say, forcing a smile that felt like a mask. Ben was already at the driver's side, his eyes darting between the alley and the car. "Hurry. I'll drive," he called urgently. He pulled the door open, heart pounding in anticipation. As soon as the door was ajar, Sarah ushered Emily and Jack into the back seat, her mind racing. She pressed her weight against the door, desperate for a moment to breathe. But the chilling shouts from the alley reminded her they were still being hunted. "Go faster, Ben!" Sarah cried, unable to calm the defeated knot twisting in her stomach. "Just a second," he shouted, his hands grabbing the steering wheel. A low growl of the engine pierced the tension in the air as he twisted the key. The car sputtered before jumping to life. Her heart surged with hope. "Let us go." Just as Ben slammed the gear into drive, a heavy thud hit the side of the car. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. "What was that?" "I don't know, but we can't stick around to find out," Ben responded, slamming the accelerator. The tires screeched against the pavement as they shot forward into the night. Sarah couldn't look back, the adrenaline thrumming in her veins propelled her to glare ahead. They raced down the street, bumpy and uneven. The city lights blurred past, swirling colors of yellow and red. But in the chaos, her mind spun in a different direction. How had they found them so quickly? Was there a signal? A leak? "Mommy, I'm scared." Emily whimpered from the back seat, her voice trembling. "I know, baby. I'm right here," Sarah said, wishing she could wrap her arms around both children and shield them from everything looming out there. Ben's focus stayed steady on the road, but she could see the tension brimming in his shoulders. "Listen," he said, his voice low but gripping. "We need a plan. We can't just run forever." Sarah swallowed hard. "What do you mean?" Ben's jaw set tight. "Let us go to my brother's place. It's close, and he can help. But we need to keep our heads low. If they know we're there, they might try to follow." The idea of running to his brother felt both promising and terrifying, trusting someone else when betrayal felt too close. But she had no choice, she had to trust Ben, the only anchor left in her chaotic world. "Okay," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Let us go to him, then." With the heavy shadows sliding further behind them, dread mixed with a flicker of hope. Still, Sarah struggled with the unknown crime that hunted them. Who were these people? What did they really want? Suddenly, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket, sending a jolt through her heart. She pulled it out, and her heart sank as she saw the name on the screen: her former employer. The person who had set all of this in motion. "Ben!" she cried, an icy wave of fear washing over her. "It's them." He glanced at her, eyes wide with concern. "What do you mean?" But before she could answer, another voice broke through the static on the call. "Sarah? We need to talk." The air thickened, trapping them in a tension-filled bubble. Ben's gaze turned serious as he swerved into a darkened side street. "Hang up," he ordered, gripping the wheel tightly. But that voice, it was already too powerful. Sarah couldn't disconnect. "What do they want?" she whispered, with dread pooling in her stomach. As they turned the corner, Sarah's fear morphed into resolve. But would the truth they were about to uncover shatter everything they fought for? And as they drove deeper into the night, the lingering question remained: would confronting their past lead to redemption, or only more danger? The car sped through the winding backstreets, the darkness closing in like a thick blanket. Sarah's breath was shaky, her heart pounding in her chest. Jack and Emily were silent now, their little bodies curled tight against each other in the back seat. The weight of impending danger hung heavily in the air, and she could hardly hear anything but the frantic cacophony of her thoughts. Sarah Ben's voice cut through, low and urgent. "You need to take the call. It could be important." In an instant, a chill ran down her spine. She was gripped by the fear of discovery and the temptation to know the truth. What if it's a trap? What if they're tracking us? His eyes met hers, determination carved into the lines of his face. "We can't run from this. If they're after you, we need to understand why. Answer it. Please." With a wavering breath, she pressed answer, the sound of her heart drowned out by static. Hello? Sarah, you have to listen to me. The voice rattled her. It was Thomas. I'm so sorry. I know you're in danger. Where are you? She interrupted, the worry tinging her voice. Every second counts. You need to get to my brother's place, he has a safe house. I'm trying to get there too, but you need to protect the kids. Is he safe? She pressed, dread spilling from every syllable. Yes. But, the voice faltered for just a moment. I'll explain everything when you get there. But you must trust me. Doubt flickered in her mind. Could she trust him, when secrets had drawn a line between them? We can't run forever. She blurted, anger bubbling to the surface. Just get there. Don't stop. They're watching, Sarah. I promise it will be okay. Before she could respond, the call cut off suddenly, as if severed by an unseen force. The air in the car thickened, and for a moment, silence lingered, heavy with unspoken fears, doubts, and hopes. Mommy, what's wrong? Emily's soft voice shattered the heavy quiet, bringing her back to the present. We're just figuring some things out, sweetheart. We'll be all right, Sarah reassured, forcing a smile. But deep down, the weight of uncertainty clung to her heart. She turned to Ben, their eyes locking briefly, a silent understanding passing between them. This was it. The moment they both feared but knew they had to confront head-on. Get ready, Ben murmured, shifting slightly in his seat as they neared the address, his foot pressing harder on the gas. Looming shadows masked the streets as they finally reached a nondescript house at the end of a lane lined with trees. This is it, he breathed, pulling up to the curb. They piled out of the car, adrenaline racing with each hurried step toward the entrance. Sarah took a moment to glance back at the street, the night echoing with the sound of silence. Were they being followed? Uncertainty lingered in her gut. Let us go, Ben urged, his hand guiding her towards the door. As the door creaked open, a figure appeared. Thomas' brother, Daniel, stood before them, eyes wide as if anticipating their arrival. You made it, he exclaimed, moving aside to let them in. We need to be quick. Sarah pressed her back against the door after entering, heart hammering in her chest. Is it safe here? For now, Daniel assured, closing the door behind them. But we can't stay long. We'll need to lay low, find a better spot until we know they're off your scent. Who? Jack's voice trembled from behind her. Are they going to hurt us? No one is going to hurt you, Sarah promised, enveloping him and Emily in her arms. But uncertainty hung in the air like a thick fog. They moved quickly through the dim interior, Daniel leading them to a small living room furnished simply, the air tinged with a faint scent of cookie dough. Sit here. You'll be safe. He motioned to a couch and pulled out his phone. I need to call Thomas. He's coming, but we need to prepare. Prepare for what? Sarah asked, her voice shaking. There's a reason your lives are in danger. Thomas has been hiding from some serious enemies, ones who will stop at nothing to reclaim what they think is theirs. Enemies? Sarah echoed, her heartbeat quickening. What? Do you mean? What is it they want? Ben placed a hand on her shoulder, grounding her. We need to understand everything. Knowledge is our best weapon. Just then, the sound of tires screeching outside interrupted their conversation. Sarah's heart raced anew, panic flooding her system. What was that? Stay down. Daniel ordered, his expression turning tense. Fear felt like a vice around her chest as they crouched together. The sounds of heavy footsteps, rough voices carried through the windows. Are we being followed? Sarah whispered, the thought sending dread coursing through her veins. Not yet, but if they tracked us here. Daniel clenched his fists at his sides, fury mixing with fear. A loud banging erupted at the door, shaking the walls. Open up. We know you're in there. Come out now. Ben's fierce gaze met hers, determination blooming beneath the fear. This is it. We stand together. Together, she echoed, drawing strength from the truth that had emerged between them. As the shadows overwhelmed them, they realized they wouldn't be running anymore. They were here to fight back, protect what mattered most. With hearts pounding and minds set on the truth, they prepared to take back what was rightfully theirs. In that moment, alongside the love that fueled them, a fierce hope ignited. We'll face whatever comes next, Sarah vowed quietly, gathering her children close and standing tall at the brink of uncertainty. In this defining moment, shadows could not dim the power of their resolve. They were family bound by love, a force no darkness could shatter. As they braced for the storm, one thing rang true: no matter the danger stalking them, together they would emerge transformed, stronger than ever before. Now, as this epic journey reaches its conclusion, it's your turn to step into the action. You need to subscribe now to catch our next exclusive stories. Leave a like instantly to feed the algorithm and keep this community alive. Comment below your reactions, feelings, and what you think will happen next, and share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness these incredible transformations. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second.